Welcome to Hashtag Sports.
Well, Paul, here we are once again after the bye week. The Buffalo Bills run their record to 8-3, 6-2 in the conference, and still 4-0 in the division by defeating I always want to say San Diego. I just love
it's so
saying
tough,
San
isn't
Diego.
it? It's so tough.
Beating the LA Rams 27-17 in a game that a lot of mixed emotions going into this game. Obviously, a lot of people. I think they're going to check their health premiums because of this game today and what the Buffalo Bills were doing. But nevertheless, the Buffalo Bills did get the win today in a very tough battle with Los Angeles. And we're going to talk about Herbert. We're going to talk about Allen. We're going to talk about the run game and a bunch of other things. But first, before we get to that, we definitely want to throw a shout out to our hashtag heroes, which are our channel members. We wanted to let you guys know that from now until the end of the year, we're going to be donating 100% of your membership to the Punt Foundation, which is Brian Mormon's foundation for children with pediatric cancer. Which we say it all the time, but we never really tell what PUNT stands. PUNT actually stands for Perseverance, Understanding, Need, and Triumph. So we definitely want to tell you guys that we were able to raise $160 last month for the Punt Foundation due to the channel membership. So we can't thank you enough for that. Obviously, you can always find us on multiple platforms. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Twitter, Facebook, Sportscaster, wherever you type in #Sports, you're going to find us, as well as our webpage, htagsports.com. We're going to be we're simulcasting this tonight on Sportscaster and Facebook as well as YouTube. Thank you guys for joining us. The chat is already hopping. I'm hopping. It's crazy that there are people that are upset about this, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to dive into it, Paul. However, I think the first thing that I want to say is that the Buffalo Bills did not play their best football today and still won by 10.
Yep.
You have 3 turnovers in a game. That could bite you. But I want to get your initial thoughts on the game before we dive into it.
Okay, I can sum up this game in just a microcosm, and it's the Hail Mary pass, where I'm watching them line up. I was like, I'm not really worried about this, but as a Bills fan, I'm worried about this. Like, I'm looking at the clock going, Paul, what are you really concerned about here, right? Like, this is a miracle. This would take a miracle. But the Bills fan in me knows better than to just be complacent with it. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure they have some wide receivers in the back. They must have learned their lesson from the Arizona game, right? I'm like, no, I'm not seeing 13 back there. I don't see any wide receivers. All I wanted was Gabe Davis on that play. It's all I wanted in this world was Gabe Davis or Dawson Knox. He doesn't know how to catch. Put him back there.
You did not.
Why not? Why not?
You did not.
That was a microcosm of the game for me. It's everything that could go wrong was kind of close to going wrong, and then ultimately did. And the officiating in this game was just madness to me. The game must have been chippier on the field than we got the feel from the broadcast, because there were flags all over the place. It must have been a chippier game on the field than the way that the game that we got to watch.
They did not. The laundry was flying today, and I don't understand why. And I saw blatant holds on the Bills a couple times when they were trying to get in there, and I didn't see a call. I'm just, okay, right. Whatever. There were some questionable calls. Tillery is probably got to go into for anger management one of these days, because that guy, he was playing. Well, I mean, I can understand that from a defensive lineman, but we're talking about the Buffalo Bills did win. They won against a team that, even though, if you would have asked me this last year, with the talent that the Chargers possess on their team, even though they have a rookie quarterback, and you're looking at Bosa, Allen, Eckler, all those guys in the secondary and stuff, and you're telling me that the Buffalo Bills will have 3 turnovers, play a little bit of a sloppy game, there's a lot of laundry on the field, and they're still going to win by 10? Mm-hmm. I think that's my biggest takeaway from the game, is that they didn't play their best and they still won. Mm-hmm. But we must remember that the Chargers aren't going to the playoffs.
Right.
So you're not going to face a team. You do what you did today against a playoff team, and you're going to go home early. You're going to grab your golf clubs a week early than everybody else. So that's the biggest thing for me from the takeaway from this game. Am I happy the Buffalo Bills won? Absolutely, 110%. I'm happy they won. However, them coming out of a bye, Paul, them coming out of a bye and playing like this, I'm glad they don't have the number 1 seed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, and I know, I know Buffalo Fanatics has been banging this drum for a little bit, talking about McDermott's now 4-0 coming out of the bye week. Paul Berg brought that up to us on our Hall of Fame call that we just got off prior to the live stream. And I'm sure that's a great point to make, but there were very scary moments of this football game, they were not fleeting, right? Like, it was scary for a little bit. Who just brought it up in the chat? I actually just responded. Let's see here. Give me one. No, but it wasn't. It was Josh Clark. That Allen trying to throw the ball away while being dragged down to the ground. Every week we see this happen where Allen tries to make a throw or at least ground the ball so he doesn't have to take the sack yardage, and you're just waiting for him to get rolled up on. Yes. Right? Like, it's bound to happen. It's a ticking time bomb. He comes out of the game for a play, and Barkley comes in and gets an exceptionally rude awakening from Bosa. And I think a lot of times people thought when we drafted, Epenesa with our first pick in the draft this season, that we were getting a really, exciting defensive end. Like, I sometimes think people, because it was the Bills' first player off the board, some people felt like we should be getting an impact player like a Bosa, but that guy's not cut. There's not a lot of those guys, right? He's a special player, and you have to recognize how versatile he is, because he was all over that defensive line today, and he was impactful no matter where they put him. It didn't matter what Buffalo did. Containing Bosa was a problem.
Oh, absolutely, and you know what though? That's a problem for a lot of teams in trying to get Bosa. And then, but the one takeaway that I got, which I didn't understand what the Buffalo Bills were doing today, was the fact that you had Bosa. Ingram wasn't there. No Ingram. Okay, if you got both of them, you got to try to do something. You got to try to do something with your offensive line, your protection, slide protection, chip with the back, chip with the tight end. I understand that completely. But if Bosa's the only guy in there and you're still running that tilt 4-3 as they were, which looks familiar. Star used to do that all last year. You have to try to do something to neutralize somewhat that animal, because Williams and Dawkins had trouble with him a lot today.
So talk just real quick about that tilt 4-3, because we've mentioned it on other episodes, but this is going back to last year.
Yes.
So talk about what the Chargers do on that interior to free Bosa up. Right? Because here in Buffalo, we just take 4 guys and we just say, okay, your 4 guys on our 4 guys, go ahead. But last year we saw Star do something that the Chargers were doing effectively today. Obviously, Star struggled with it on the stat sheet, which is typical of a guy playing a tilt 4-3. Typically doesn't make a lot of tackles. But talk about that real quick as far as what the Chargers did that freed up Bosa, that the Bills really can't do this year.
Yeah, the one thing, and it goes back to the one tech. You want to talk about Star, you want to talk about his statistics. A lot of people were down on him the last couple of years, and I understand, and it's understandably so. You don't see eye-popping numbers from Star, and that's how it rolls. That's how it goes. But the numbers you have to concentrate on with Star is, how are your defensive ends doing, and how is your middle linebacker doing? For 2 years, Tremaine Edmonds is your leading tackler. That's Star's responsibility. Keep bodies off of the second level. Now, in a one technique, you're in between the guard you're in between the guard and the center, pretty much. What Star would do was he would tilt his body at an angle to try to shoot the gap in between the guard and the center. Now, what that does is it takes both of them out of the play. When we talk about, Star's eating up bodies, he's getting double teamed. That's one of the things that we were talking about. So if you're tilting yourself like that, it's a very awkward angle for a guard and a center. So who takes him, who doesn't, who tries to get him? And it's impactful in that way. So what are you doing? You're essentially singling up everyone else on that line, because then you have a guard and 2 tackles now to block the rest of the offense, the defensive line, which has 3 guys as well. So what are you going to do? If you leave Star alone, he can try to cut up the middle on you. Okay, and it's going to be tough because you're at a tilt. It's a very tough way to block it. Now, if you're not doing that, the other thing you can do is you have to try to get a man to help. So then you're playing undermanned with the receiving core. So let's say you keep a tight end in if that happens, which we saw the Buffalo Bills against the Buffalo Bills a lot. Teams were keeping tight ends in, so they didn't have a lot of guys going out in the route. Sometimes a back would have to stay in. So those little flare passes you saw to Eckler, if you have Starr and they're doing a tilt, just for example, if you have Starr doing a tilt 4-3, maybe some of those plays he can't go out because he's protecting first. So by not having that in there, the Buffalo Bills were starting to see some of the struggles for this defense going on. Now, because the Chargers did have him in there, it was able to single up Bosa quite a bit. So that's why the result of Allen going 18 for 24 for $157 is the result of that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the chat's on fire tonight. Everybody is rolling through some great points. I just want to get to a bunch of them real quick. Yeah. A couple of great points. First off, Randy Hardman said AJ Klein had 14 tackles today. Let me just double check that. That is true. 10 solo, 1.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Obviously, today, from a production standpoint, great day. AJ Klein does have a tendency to take some pretty bad angles at times. We saw that on one of the receptions to Eckler. Klein had a chance to wrap him up and I mean totally arm tackled him. So there's sometimes he takes pretty bad angles, but AJ Klein, another great stat sheet day for him. Richard Forbes says, yes, that's what you want. Edmonds being your leading tackler, not Poyer. Today, Mar, we saw Poyer down a lot more than we saw in the last 2 previous games. And that was because Jaquan Johnson played so much today. Now, the reason Jaquan played is because they run 3 wide receiver sets primarily, right? That's just what they run, right? They run a lot of 11 personnel. And if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you know what 11 personnel looks like because that's what you've been running all year. You're running 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. And with the Bills, that's what you had to do today, right? You had Wallace on one side, Trey on the other side, Jaquan Johnson in the slot. And then you just had to deal with when they put Keenan Allen in the slot. The Bills were able to keep Trey on him a little bit, but truthfully speaking, the Bills play so much zone coverage that you can't really pick and choose where you're going to put Trey if you're trying to keep him on Keenan Allen, right? So if you're saying, oh, we need Trey on Keenan Allen all day, but you're playing zone, aren't you asking for a little more than what those players can give you?
I don't know. I think when you finally go into certain games, Kansas City being an example, you want to know if he can hold up. You want to know if he can hold up on that slot. If they happen to drop a guy down in the slot, can he hold up with that guy? And you definitely want to find that out. If you keep covering him up with Trey, I understand that. It could be very tough. It could be very tough for him when he actually has to cover a guy that is of elite level, like a Keenan Allen or like a Tyreek Hill who has 750 yards in the first quarter. You know? But
Tyreek Hill's going off right now.
He is.
Yeah, he's going off right now.
I think they really need to know. I think the strength of Jaquan Johnson's game is against the run because he doesn't know how big he is. He really doesn't. He plays so aggressive at that corner position. I think that's what they love out of him at that corner spot. So, and we're getting a lot of stuff in the chat about the clock management, which was atrocious, absolutely atrocious today. But I think what the Buffalo Bills did early on was they had Trey go with them a few times. And then that throws the offensive game plan off for the Chargers because, like, okay, if he's going to go with him, who else can we free up? And then what happened on that, some of those, you got Hunter Henry on Klein, which if I'm the Chargers, I'm taking that all day. I mean, Klein had 14 tackles today, don't get me wrong. However, Hunter Henry on Klein, I'm taking Hunter Henry, even post-injury. But a lot of those things, they were mixing it up quite a bit. I mean, I like, even though they, the Hail Murray that they had.
Oh God!
And then you
stab me in the face every time I had to hear that.
I mean, I understand that, but you had that, and then you had the game today. I think the Buffalo Bills defense is steadily improving and learning how to play with a pass first offense on the other side of the ball. Because as we talked about it on an episode this week, we said, listen, this defense was geared up for a run first team that would throw the ball every once in a while the last 2 years. That's what they did. And they were able to align themselves in that respect. But now you have a pass-first team that you're starting to get teams to be one-dimensional a lot quicker.
Yep.
So in that respect, you're saying, okay, we don't need to worry about the run. But there's still a lot of time left to worry about the run. Teams can still run on you and score. So I think they're just getting adjusted to having a different offensive philosophy on the other side of the ball. Not to say that the offense is different, but they're throwing a lot more than they did in the past couple of years.
Sure, absolutely. And we've talked about that, we talked about, did that end up in an episode this last week?
It did.
Okay, perfect.
It did.
Keenan Allen today, PJ brings it up. The Bills did a good job on Keenan Allen today. 10 targets, 4 receptions for 40 yards and 1 touchdown. And I got to be honest with you, he was not open on that touchdown reception.
No, he was not.
He was not open. Oh my gosh. That was a dime by Herbert and a great catch by Allen because Tremaine was all over him. He was not open. So, I mean, kudos to the Chargers for pulling that one off because that was one hell of a touchdown catch. Bills rushing attack today. Let's talk about that. Devin Singletary, 11 carries for 82 yards. Zach Moss, 9 carries for 59 yards. Josh Allen, not the leading rusher on the Buffalo Bills like we've seen the last few weeks. He had 9 carries for 32 yards. But here's where it gets you, right? Devin Singletary averaged 7.5 yards a carry. Zach Moss, 6.6 yards a carry. Even Josh Allen, and we know quarterback rushing numbers could be skewed a little bit, right? Because, it's just that they're not always true carries. 3.6 yards per carry, right?
Yes.
Like that's great. But again, you're seeing a near dead nut split between carries on Devin Singletary and Zach Moss. And don't get me wrong, while Singletary I really liked because first off, you can't just use one guy to bring him down, right?
No.
The fumble was hurtful to Singletary, and Singletary would have gotten less snaps had Moss not gotten that penalty of unsportsmanlike conduct, which I still don't understand.
I don't get it.
I do not understand. No idea what happened there. They flagged him. He gets pulled off because of unsportsmanlike, which is very common in the NFL. That's normal, especially with young players. You get a penalty like that, they pull you down. And then Singletary comes in, has a couple nice rushes after that. But Singletary had fumbled the possession before that, so I thought his day was done. Right? Singletary fumbles. I'm looking. Zach Moss has been effective
usually
today.
the way it goes.
Yeah, that's usually the way it goes. But Zach Moss comes in with an unsportsmanlike conduct on the very next drive. He gets pulled. Singletary goes back in and was, again, effective. So it was a fun game to watch them attempt to run. But first half, again, just you look at the splits and you're like, okay, Bills were effective running the football today. And obviously in the third quarter, they were more, or fourth quarter, they were more effective than, any other time in the game.
Yeah.
But, it seems like in the first quarter or first half again, it's just they forget about the run. I don't know if that's just perception. I haven't looked at the splits for it yet.
No.
But it just feels like they forget about the run in the first half.
I think it's a bit of, they get off script a little bit. And I think you want to try to throw some things at certain teams. Like, I can understand it from an offensive coordinator standpoint. You come out of a bye. You want to run a few things to get other teams thinking for the rest of the year. Like, there were some plays on there that I didn't initially see in the first 10 games. I didn't. And I was like, okay, all right, I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to throw a couple wrinkles because you still have to devote practice time to those plays if you're going to face the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
And now the philosophy of teams coming against the Bills, and this is going to be very, very new for a lot of people in here, okay? It's new for Paul. It's new for me. The teams that go against the Bills now are going to try to control the clock to keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands in this offense.
Yeah.
So get ready for that. So that's why I said before, this connects to my point previously as far as teams are going to, the defense has to adjust to teams doing that because they know they're not going to throw really on team. You got Trey, you got Poyer and Hyde back there. Wallace came back today. He looked great, but you're gonna start to see that with teams. They're gonna try to keep the ball out of Josh Allen's hands in this offense. So what are they gonna try to do? They're gonna try to control the clock a little bit more. And teams that can't do that are gonna walk home with a 10-point loss. And I mean, you saw Eckler. Eckler touched the ball 25 times today.
Yeah, coming off a hamstring.
He
tore that hamstring off the bone. He tore it off the bone.
Yeah, he did. Paul Burkham in the chat. Dane needs to play.
Dane Jackson ineligible to be on the roster. Let's just call that out. If you didn't see the episode, Reader's Digest version, Dane Jackson. The only way he can be called up to play on the roster, on the active roster, is if somebody gets COVID. That he's ineligible to be called up otherwise. They used up all the practice squad call ups that he gets.
Yes.
So the next time he's up, it's because either somebody tested positive for COVID and they got a roster spot for him.
Yes.
Or if he signed to the 53, which, by the way, I think the Bills are actually at 50 players.
Yeah, they
because
didn't have a full roster today.
No, they put Milano on IR, never made a move. They put John Brown on IR, never made a move. Put Cody Ford on IR, never made a move. So they've got 3 open roster spots right now. I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I can't figure it out.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Croft being a healthy scratch today obviously was, and Murphy as well. Very interesting for both of them. I understand that. But to get back, and we'll talk about that, but to get back to your running back point, Paul, we've said this for years on hashtag. This goes back, like I'm talking about podcast days, like in 2013 when you and I were doing a podcast. I'm talking about if you come in the season with a rookie running back, these guys are used to playing 12, 13 games a year. These guys are used to pounding the rock, playing 12, 13 games a year, and they get used up, and that's what happens. But then when you get into the pros, this is your job. This is your profession. This is what you're going to have to do. That weighs on them. The financial weighs on them. And the physicality of the game itself weighs on you. So if you have a rookie guy, Alvin Kamara is a brilliant example of how to do it. With Sean Payton, he kept him out like the first 4 or 5 games of the year in his rookie season and then played him. Then he was amazing. You start to look at other running backs such as Leonard Fournette in his rookie year. They ran him into the ground the first 12, 13 games. He was dead by the end of the year. So as far as a balance of running backs, I could see what the Bills are trying to do with Moss and Motor in the fact that, okay, Moss can't be out there all the time. Singletary can't be out there all the time. If we're going to make a run and we're going to go into the playoffs, I need 2 healthy backs that can both fulfill the role of a pass pro guy, running the ball hard in between the tackles, and catch the ball out of the backfield. And it seems like Singletary and Moss both get what's supposed to go on in the game. Like they get the mental part of the game and what's going on with the philosophy of the offense. And I understand that. But you still want both of these guys fresh by the time you go into the playoffs. And I can understand. That's why you're talking about 11 carries versus 9 carries. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, the fumble did hurt. It was at a poor, it's one of those things. It didn't get you though. But it's one of those things when you play those better teams, that they go down for 7. Teams go back down for 7. Now you're like, uh-oh.
Well, I mean, here's the problem. You did it deep, right? Well, I think they were on the 22 at the time.
Yeah.
Like you did it deep. And that's a scenario where, like, we always laugh at Cam Newton because remember that one time he went in for the fumble and he had the business decision, like, nah, a lot of big guys around here. I'm not going to dive in there. Like, that's a circumstance where, Josh will see that on film and say, you know what, next time I'm just going to fall on it. Like, there's just no benefit to trying to pick that football up, right? And if it's a drop snap, there's no benefit to picking it up. Nothing good can come of it. Just fall on it. It's first down. Like, if it were 4th down, 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, okay, all right, I'm with you here. But it was first down, like you don't need to be doing that. Just following the ball. But these are the types of things that young quarterbacks have to learn. And not to say that Josh Allen, 3 years deep into his career, isn't a young quarterback anymore. There's still things that you learn along the way. And he's benefited from good center play. These, fumbled snaps aren't a common occurrence. So this is what happens. I do want to say one thing though, Mar, before we go on to the next topic. And this is a little known thing that I don't know if a lot of Bills people have picked up on yet, right? But the Cole Beasley touchdown pass today was huge. Why was it a huge thing?
I don't know.
So
I can't even venture a guess, Paul. I have no idea where you're going with this.
Okay, that now means that in the last 2 seasons, 3, and let me just double check the stat. I just got to check one thing. Yep. 3 Bills wide receivers, 3 different Bills wide receivers have touchdown passes. John Brown threw one last year. Yeah. Isaiah McKenzie already threw one this year. And now Cole Beasley throws another one, right? So this is all stuff that on film, when you're breaking down, you got to watch that backfield motion, right? Because before it was McKenzie this year. And you knew John Brown could throw from last year, right? So these are things that are just kind of in the back of your mind. But the Bills have obviously made a concerted effort to allow their wide receivers to throw passes. And apparently 3 of them can. So that's I know it sounds stupid, but that's actually a big deal, right? Because this is not a common trend. Like this is very rare in the NFL to see something like that.
I equate that to the Wildcat offense. It's something that, okay, you could run it. Okay.
Right.
Okay, you could run it. That's not going to be a staple of your offense, though. And I can understand that. And we got a lot. But as far as the I had a great point to bring up with the running backs, and I totally lost it, but I'll get it back.
Oh, sorry, man.
No, that's all right.
Remember old-fashioned Travers. I can't wait for that Lee Smith TD pass.
It's 2020. Anything can happen at this point.
Ryan Bates. So here's what happened in the Bills' first touchdown. So the Bills, you could hear it over the loudspeaker in the game that they had announced 71 was eligible. Right?
Yes.
They announced him as eligible. But guess what happened? They took him off the field, and Lee Smith runs on the field. They did a last second. They did a late switch. Lee Smith comes on the field. They run Zach Moss off the left side for a couple yards. Right?
Yeah.
Bates checks back in to the game. Right? And this time also as eligible. And when you hear, big man eligible in Buffalo, it means something different than in other places. When you hear big man eligible, it really means the big man is eligible. We see Deion Dawkins.
He's going out.
Yeah, right, exactly. So we saw 71, and I looked at my 14-year-old son. I was like, oh, we're going to see a big man touchdown. Oh, we're going to see a big man touchdown. And then you see Ryan Bates run one of the best clearing routes you'll ever see an offensive lineman run. And Dawson Knox is just in the back of the end zone all by himself. Josh Allen throws it 746 miles an hour to him. And he wrangles it in. I was nervous.
You know what? It's funny, too, because you talk about that, and the connection with your previous point was that 3 different wide receivers have thrown touchdowns. You talk about these trick gadget plays that are going out with Brian Daboll.
Right.
And, the tackle eligible, Deion Dawkins caught a touchdown last year in New England. I equate it to Paul. And if parents in the chat, you guys will probably, you guys will probably know this, too. Do you ever try to get a family picture of your child and they're not looking? So you're sitting there going, you're just snapping your finger up here. Hey, look, smile. That's what you're trying to do. That's exactly what you're trying to do. Those are Daboll's trick plays. They're like, I'm going to get you to look up here so you're not paying attention to the bread and butter stuff that we always do. That's what I'm going to get you to do. So, the Paul's internet, what are they talking about? I don't know. But as far as the running backs go, you talk about 7.5 yards per carry, 6.6 yards per carry. Is this, we'll talk about Winters in a second, okay? By the way, I called the line, by the way.
Did you?
In trying to ruffle feathers in our Q&A period, I actually called what the line was going to be. You know how bad that is? I was kidding, and that was the line today. Anyway, point is this. Sorry, guys.
Be lightning. Winters is a bum.
We'll get to that, but here's my point. You have Dawkins and you have Williams, which were your 2 staples. Everybody inside has been shuffled around so many times. So you look at all that. Now you have Morse and Feliciano on the field at the same time, minus Winters. Okay, we'll talk about Winters. But you go 7.5 yards a clip and 6.6 yards a clip against a very tough defensive front. Is this the impact of Feliciano, and is this the thing? Is this going to be something that we could look forward to with Feliciano and Morse in the game?
What you mean the run,
weeks?
the run offense,
the run production? Yes.
Yeah. So one thing that I will say is that first off, the game today, when you're going against a Chargers team that really had a tendency to bring 4 an awful lot, they didn't really get too exotic, right? Yeah. Because often they don't have to. You're winning the numbers game there, right? So you should be able to run the football against the Chargers. Like you really should be. If you take a look at the gaps that Singletary and Moss were running through, they were not finding gaps. Those things were just wide open in front of them. And I don't know if that's necessarily the offensive line, although I would love to believe that. Just the way the Chargers go after a quarterback, they typically just do it with 4 guys because they've got Bosa and they can, right? So a lot of the run production there was there for them most of the game. They did struggle at times where they ran face first into the run defense. Like there were some really bad negative plays, but you're going to get that, right? That's what happens. My concern is that we get 1 rush for -2 yards, and then all of a sudden we get gun shy about running the football again.
Yes.
Right. And that's
you're behind schedule. That's what happens. Right. You're on 1st and 10, and you're on 2nd and 12. We got to throw. We got to do something. I loved, and we talked about this during the Hall of Fame call. And if you guys aren't a member of the Hall of Fame, that's right next to, after the subscribe. You hit the subscribe button, you can hit the join button. You can be one of the Hall of Famers. We actually do a private Zoom call with all the Hall of Famers, and then we just rap about the Bills. But that being said, you know, the nickel and dime stuff that they were doing. I love all those short passes to Diggs. I'm sure he probably doesn't like it, but that is how you get teams to creep up so you can go deep. That is a staple of trying, and it supplements your run game if you're not able to run. So if you run a 4-yard hitch and you complete it, you got a 4-yard gain. I don't like the fact that he kept running backwards with some of them catches that he did with Diggs, but I mean that's another story. But the point was, you're supplementing the run game because that's essentially a run, snapping the ball, taking one step drop, firing it in there. That's a run. That's a West Coast type of philosophy, which is something you implement to throw teams off your scent of what you want to run. And I understand that completely. But let's talk about, and we'll get back to what we were talking. Let's talk about winners. I mean,
okay.
I mean, someone's put it on Twitter, and I just put it in the chat. Believe me, I didn't come up with that. They said he must have Nathan Peterman practices because he does not look that good in the game.
Outstanding practices.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't. You got him for a song. You got him for free, essentially. Nobody wanted him. The Jets cut him. The Jets cut you. The Jets are 0-10.
Yeah.
Or 0-11. Like,
well, and John Muckinen puts in the chat as well. He says, why do you keep Bucker around for 3 years if you're not going to play him over winners, right? Like, you kept like Bucker around, and he's just never been able to really make your roster. He's hung out on the practice squad for quite some time, and now is finally an opportunity for him to take over a job because there's been plenty of opportunity, and he just can't beat winners out. And I don't understand the love affair with Brian Winters. I don't get it. I would have moved on far back in the past. I would have moved on, right? Like, Bates cannot be that bad at guard. Like, that's just, Bates cannot be that bad at guard. Bucker cannot be that bad at guard. Like, Winters it's been rough.
We know how stubborn this coaching staff is, though. He'll learn.
You're right,
He'll
but it's
learn.
not like they drafted the guy.
No, they didn't. I understand that. But then if you put Bates in there, let's say you do put Bates in there. He gets hurt, Paul. I know that's nothing you account for. But let's say you put Bates in there, he gets hurt. Okay? Morris gets another concussion. What are you doing? I mean, you got Feliciano. I understand that. But then what? You're back to Ike, the Ike and Brian show. You know what I mean? It's like, I think this team, I mean, it seems like they love insurance policies, and Bates is a wonderful insurance policy to have on that line, as well as Nasecki. So, I mean, we haven't seen Williams or Dawkins go down, God forbid. But you still have Nasecki in the hopper. You still got Bates in the hopper to play any of those three interiors if you need it, or tackle. Right. So, okay, he's going to learn. He's going to learn. I don't know what it is. I don't see it. I would rather have Bates in there at I was going to say at center, but Morse played amazing today, pulling. Yeah. Snapping and pulling today.
Yep.
And I love when the announcer said, "Oh yeah, he was hurt last week. He had a concussion." Okay, it wasn't like he tore his ankle or something like that. He was hurt.
So two things that I want to bring up. One, actually, Anthony John just put it in. There's three things that I want to talk about. Anthony John puts one. All these coaching jobs open up. You look at the Chargers. Anthony Lynn might not make it through the rest of the season. Somebody had just asked about that if he makes it. Personally, Tim Ellis said that. Patricia just got canned in Detroit. The league pays attention when coaches start getting fired. Right. Teams that are also struggling, that are talking about letting their coach go internally. As soon as one shoe drops, the rest of the league's like, okay, we're good. Let's move on. Right. Yes. So Anthony Lynn, he might not make it the rest of the season. Patricia's already gone in Detroit. You look at Adam Gase in New York at this point. Why are you still employing him? There's no reason to keep him employed if you intend on, looking for a new head coach. There's 3 to 4 jobs that could be available before the end of this season. Not that Leslie Frazier is available for any of them because he's currently, on a coaching staff, so he wouldn't go to one of those other jobs. But is Leslie Frazier a fit for any one of these other teams, or is Brian Dable a fit for either, any of these other teams? Because we could talk about the Bills' production until we're blue in the face, but the fact is that we've had consistency the last few years with the same coordinators coming back. And that's a big change when you change coordinators. It's underplayed oftentimes until you see the result of what happens.
Yes.
But Frazier and Dable have to be in the head coach conversations for those three jobs that will likely be available very soon.
Well, one guy you have a track record with Minnesota with Frazier. Okay, so you know what he's like as a head coach. So maybe he'll be able to fix certain things that maybe went wrong for him. And then you got Brian Dable, who many tout as the next head coaching hire. And it seems like teams want to hire more offensive-minded guys and defensive-minded guys. Like if you're talking about Detroit, they would not hire Frazier.
Mm-hmm.
They should,
right.
But you just had a defensive head coach there. So I don't know why Jim Bob Cooter's not getting any consideration. But
you just want to say that name.
I just want to say
that name.
But yeah, you start to look at all these teams around the league. Now, if you're talking about Adam Gase in New York, that is going down with the ship. He's going down with the ship. So why bring a new coach in there if you have a 75-year-old Frank Gore there? You got Joe Flacco. You got a bunch of these guys who probably won't even be on the team next year. Why would you bring in a coach to coach these guys and maybe give their philosophy of what it is?
Yeah.
Why even do that? You just throw it all away and start over next year. That's what you're going to do. That's what they're going. I believe that's what the Jets are going to do. If you want to talk about Detroit, they're going to be in line for a quarterback next year because I don't think Stafford's going to be there. Any guy that comes in, when you fire a GM and the head coach, you're starting from scratch. So Stafford is playing his last games in Detroit. He's definitely playing his last games in Detroit.
I agree with that.
You got Swift, at running back. You got a lot of young talent there. We're going to see what happens there. He tried implementing some of that New England magic, but as I said many times, Belichick teaches you what you know, not what he knows. So that's why all these people try to catch the magic. Patricia, McDaniels, Weiss, Cornell, O'Brien. It ain't happening. It ain't happening.
Right.
So there was a point, though, I wanted to bring up. Men in the Kitchen brought it up. And I thought this was a great point. Let me scroll up, see if I can find it, because it was kudos to the defense, slow down a high-powered offense. Now, I think that gets a little bit underplayed because they scored 17 points, and the Bills still had three turnovers. You gave them 3 extra possessions, and they still were only able to score 17 points. Is it more of the bend but not break, or was this you're playing against a rookie quarterback? Which one is it? Which one do you think it was?
I mean, they definitely went after Herbert. And I know that we talked about it on the Hall of Fame call. I know that Herbert missed some wide open guys, but he did not look flustered by all the pressure. So poise was impressive, although accuracy clearly was an issue for Herbert. They went after him. So, I mean, I don't know, Mar. That's a tough call.
It's like chicken or the egg, right?
Yeah, that's a tough call.
It is. I 110% agree with you. I love the kid's poise today. He was just a little inaccurate, understand, but he seemed like he was unflappable with stuff around him.
Right.
They
threw a lot at him. They threw a lot at him.
They did. But the thing that gets me is I always, and you do too, I wanted to look, and this is what I want to bestow upon the nation. It's not that we know anything more than anybody else. I'm always looking long-term and down the road. That's why I said if you beat a 3-7 Chargers team, that's not a team you're going to be playing in the playoffs. Even though they have the talent to be a playoff team, they're not a playoff team. They're not, And you got mad at me during the Hall of Fame call when I said they don't know how to win yet. You have to learn how to win in this
so
game.
Cliche.
You got to learn how to win. That's
cliche.
my point. You got to learn how to win games. If they knew the Bills did not play their best game and they were able to win because they've won games this year that were ugly. The Chargers have been losing games all year that are like this. If they knew how to win, how to close, those 3 turnovers would have been turned into points. You know who knows how to do that? Playoff teams. The Steelers will know how to do that. The Chiefs will know how to do that.
I want to get off this incredibly. I want to get off the dead horse that you're riding about learning how to win, and I want to talk about AJ Epenesa today. I tweeted if you're not following at @HTagSports on Twitter, we don't tweet often and we're not always funny, but we do tweet every now and again. And I sent out a tweet saying in the first quarter that AJ Epenesa is I don't want to jinx it, but AJ Epenesa looks really good today, right? Trent Murphy was inactive. So you can't cut him because you're not saving any money at this point. Trent Murphy's on your team.
None.
Yeah, Trent Murphy's on your team. Do we see that going forward, or do you think today it was just a matchup thing, right? They figured that because of the personnel, they really weren't going to run the football that effectively. They like to run 3 wide receivers all day anyway. So do you think that Trent Murphy was inactive due to just that's how the numbers played out and they wanted to give Epenesa the stats? Or do you think Epenesa has earned the right to start over Trent Murphy after the last 3 games?
It's tough because I come at it from a standpoint. I'm probably one of the minority in the fact that I like Murphy. I like Murphy on the edge. But you did draft this kid in the 2nd round. You do see the potential for this guy once Murphy is gone. So you have to give him experience. One way or another.
2nd round.
I said 2nd round.
I'll go to the chat. I'll defer to the chat.
I said 2nd round. What did I say? What do you think I said? 1st round?
I thought you said 1st.
Their first pick, I said.
Oh, okay.
I'll fight you. It's Randy Hardman says it's a matchup thing. It could be a matchup thing. I don't know. In the games that Murphy was scratched, you had teams that could possibly run the ball on you. Is he just not good against the run? Like, wasn't he scratched in the Kansas City game?
He was. Thought so.
Yeah. Could it be that Mario's feisty today? You know it. Could it be that it's a situation where they're trying to keep him rested for the playoff run? Because they think he's gonna be the horse for the playoff run, and maybe he was tired last year. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him because we're in agreement that he's on your team. You're not getting rid of him at this point because it doesn't save you any money. The financial and business sense of it does not make any sense if you get rid of Trent Murphy now. The depth chart does not help you either. It doesn't help you on the depth chart because then you're down another defensive end. I saw Johnson play quite a bit today.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting to see as well. He played pretty well. But yeah, I don't. Nolan Layman comes in and says, "Can you get the number 2 seed?" It's gonna be tough with a 10-0 Steeler team and Kansas City being as they are. That's crazy. It's tough. You're gonna be chasing.
It's a tough year in the AFC this year, right? It's just it's tough in the AFC. You got some big horses putting up great records right now. Yeah, that seed is going to be tough. To get on Epenesa real quick.
Yeah.
He is. What's the best way for me to phrase this?
He's a speed rusher. Buffalo Mafia News says he's a speed rusher.
Well, here's where God, I'm just trying to find the best way to phrase this. If you're looking at the dynamic across the defensive end position, right? You have Jerry Hughes right now, who again is not having a spectacular season on the stat sheet. Right, you're expecting him to, produce more sacks. That's just not the case this year, right? You look at Mario Addison. Mario Addison, I thought looked great the first couple weeks, and he's been a ghost the last 4. Now you have Trent Murphy being inactive, and there's AJ Epenesa. The Bills are really just going with a collection of defensive ends, just guys right now. They're just guys. No one's out producing anybody else. But if I'm okay with letting AJ Epenesa take snaps and being on the front side of the quarterback and learning, you drafted him in the 2nd round. I think you have to take the bumps, right? Because the position is not good next year. You look at Jerry Hughes, you look at Mario Addison, you look at Trent Murphy, just their contract situations alone. These are not guys that you can really hitch your wagon to. So Epenesa has to learn. You have to play him. It's not.
Yes.
I think he's played well enough to earn more snaps, but at the same token, you have to play him. Like you don't have a choice. You have to play him. That position is going to be so weak for them going into next season.
It is, but it's just, I'll get back to my counterpoint for you with that. But PJT, he says Matt Barkley just tweeted out, "I hope Joey's okay." That is the funniest man on the planet right now. Oh my god! If you're thinking about it in this respect, of the way that the Bills' defense was, and maybe trying to get back to that. I mean, we bring up Zoe quite a bit because I think with Starr and Zoe, I think they covered up a lot of things that we're starting to see this year. Yeah. You talk about the Swiss Army knife that Zoe was. He either had his hand in the dirt, he had his hand up, or he was doing a bunch of different things for you. And I understand that. With the loss of Murphy, essentially, you can assume Murphy's going to be gone. What's to stop them from putting in a rotation Epenesa at that end and Klein? You signed Klein for 3 years.
Yeah.
Is he the guy you want to put over there, and that's why you're rushing him so much?
I think you're rushing him because you saw what coverage looked like the first 6 weeks of the season. You know, like you got a pretty hardy look at that, and you're like, can you run forward good? Chase that guy. He's got the ball. Go after him.
Say guy with the ball, hit him.
But ever since they put him in that pass rusher role, production.
He can put pressure. He can put pressure on you, and he's savvy enough. It was weird because somebody said during the broadcast, like, "Oh, he's steadily improving." I was like, "I don't think he was a rookie. Like, why would he be steadily improving?"
Right.
Buffalo Mafia News. What is Jaquan Johnson's future as a safety?
It's numbers game to me.
Depth.
It's numbers game. Yeah, it's numbers game. Late round pick. Don't get me wrong, I like him, but you kind of have some guys that already fit the mold of what he can really bring you, right? He's not a great coverage guy. He'll help you a lot in the run game, but you've already got Jaquan Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I know we talk about Dane Jackson playing the slot. We haven't seen it. He didn't really play it at Pitt, so we don't really know what that would look like. But Jaquan Johnson could cover slot for you just as long as it's on, just as long as you're not asking him to cover, a 6'7" tight end. Because Jaquan Johnson's not very big.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's more that third corner who could step down and help in run support. But again, not phenomenal in pass coverage. That's not really his thing.
Yeah. I mean, the only reason why I brought up Klein is because on an episode this past week, you brought up people talking to you about maybe a Clay Matthews being on this team. And, you know, and I understand that. That's why I just said, well, what about Klein rushing at an end? You got 3 different tackles, or you got two defensive tackles and a defensive end, and you put Klein in there as a rotation. Something they could do.
Well, we just talked about, AJ Epenesa. Ed Oliver today had a little bit of rough go.
He did.
Right? He had that roughing the passer, which I'm sorry, a quarterback on the run outside of the pocket, I don't care where he gets hit.
No.
You are on your own. You are on your own. Trey takes out his legs. This is football, man. Like, it's those penalties that bother me, because while it looked violent, the fact of the matter is it's a bang play. You got 2 guys trying to chase Herbert down. Trey takes out his legs. Oliver finishes him off. This is what these guys are trained to do. You play until the whistle. You have a quarterback outside of the pocket. Go get the quarterback. Sure, was it an unfortunate penalty because it was 3rd down? Absolutely. Of course it was, right? It's an unfortunate penalty. But I don't fault Oliver for playing aggressive. I do fault him on the very next snap. He gets false start penalty, or neutral zone infraction.
Yeah,
that is frustrating.
Yeah, it
right?
is. It is. And
that's frustrating.
That's part of the learning process with the kid.
Right, but the quarterback outside of the pocket, man, you are that. Sorry, man, you are on your own.
You know why that is, right? You know why they call that now, right?
You got to tell me.
It was when Anthony Barr decapitated Aaron Rodgers outside of the pocket.
Oh,
I know you remember that hit.
I remember that.
I know the chat will too. That's why that's why. And the tackling the quarterback low like that, why that's a flag is because Brady got knocked out in 2008 in the Chiefs game. So they have a penalty there. So that's why they want to try to protect the most valuable asset on everybody's team. And I can understand that, but bang play, come on, man. And I can understand if there's intent. And it's kind of hard to tell intent with that. But, I mean, if I'm getting blocked in the back by an offensive lineman that I've beaten and he throws me down and then I go into the quarterback's legs, how is that a penalty on me?
Right.
I know that's not what happened here, but I'm just giving an example.
So let me ask you this, Mark. We're stepping into 2021. Let's say Jerry Hughes has lost his job to AJ Epenesa on the backside, right? Is Ed Oliver your front side defensive end?
Give me that all day. Give me that all day.
I mean, we see the difference without Shaq Lawson. Not that Shaq Lawson was an outstanding defensive end, because I still am not a big fan of Shaq Lawson. But the one thing he did do was he took the straightest line to the quarterback and he just kept going forward. That was it, right? Yeah. That was all. And we saw the Bills struggle with interior pressure today. I do not think Ed Oliver is going to be able to get to a weight where he's going to be a hog on the inside. He's a pass rush defensive lineman, right? Yes. And you don't have a hog next to him, so he's kind of caught in this middle ground. Ed Oliver at a DE position, especially on that front side where he could just put that constant pressure on a quarterback, right?
He'll be singled up.
Get him to step up, right? And he'll be singled up, right?
I like that. And the thing is, and this will go back to your point on a previous episode that you've talked about, Paul, and we talked about this quite a bit. When you see these guys that come out of these big schools, Clemson, Bama, they have so much talent surrounding them. it's almost hard to assess how great they were because they have all this other talent around them.
Yeah.
Shaq Lawson, somebody said, well, he was a former first-round pick. Okay, understandably so. He was a first-round pick by Rex Ryan. First of all, we got to take that with a grain of salt. Second thing was this. He was at Clemson. They have horses there. So was he the real catalyst on that defensive front to do a lot of those things he did? I know we're going in the Wayback Machine a little bit, but the point is this. Like, you talk about a Jeremy Chin or, a guy like that is a horse in and of himself. That's one of those things you got to take into consideration. But I love Oliver on the outside. I think he'd be great. You want to single him up. If Hughes is not here, I understand that. If you have Epenesa on the other side, okay, I would be okay with that. Epenesa isn't there yet. Daniel Garber's huge grains of salt. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But I think the biggest part of today, like I said before, that I'm going to take out of today is that the Bills did not play their best football and still won by a double-digit score.
Sure. Yep.
You take the win, but you say to yourself, what happened today could not beat a playoff team. It couldn't. Mm-hmm. It just couldn't. Mm-hmm. That's my take from this game. I'm happy with the W, so I'm on the side of everybody as far as that goes. Buffalo Bills are 8-3, 6-2 in the conference, 4-0 in the division. I understand all of that. However, if you try to play a playoff team the way you played today, you are going home early. That's all I'm saying about the game today.
John Brown being
out. God.
That makes such a difference.
Huge.
Like, don't get me wrong, I like Gabe Davis. I like Gabe Davis a lot, right? But the role that Gabe Davis plays in this offense is not the same as John Brown. We saw a significant drop-off in overall pass performance today without John Brown on the field. Is that a product of the Chargers defense, which I thought had a pretty banged up secondary?
They did.
So is John Brown being out? Does he really have this much of an impact on your offense that you actually had to run the football effectively today in order to win this football game?
Well, first off, you were able to run the football effectively. I know.
Yeah.
But, I like Gabe Davis, but he doesn't add the same element and you can't supplement that with McKenzie or Roberts either, because John Brown is a bona fide deep threat who can run underneath. Some of these guys can't run underneath.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh, Matthias, thank you so much. We won, and so should the Punt Foundation. Thank you so much, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. Everything,
Super chats
100%.
Go. Everything goes. So
everything goes. Super chats, memberships, everything's going to the Punt Foundation. 100%.
Phenomenal. Yep. Thank you for it. But yeah, John Brown adds an element to this, so you can't shift coverage to a certain player. Like you talk about Diggs having 7 for 39 today. That's a result of John Brown not being in the lineup. Mm-hmm. That's because you could shift coverage over to you could shift coverage over to the side of Diggs, but then everyone else has to step up. Mm-hmm. Gabe Davis has a huge day today. Right. Touchdown, a long catch on a Aaron Rodgers-esque. Hey, I drew him off sides. I'm going to go deep. How many times have you seen a quarterback do that for the Buffalo Bills recent history? I haven't.
Right.
And then you see, Dawson Knox catches a touchdown in the back of the end zone. That is huge. So other guys are going to have to step into these roles with John Brown out for the next 2 games now, or 2 games or 2 more weeks, because he just got announced yesterday that he was on IR. Yep. So it's 3 games, right?
Yep.
Okay, 3 games.
Yep. Tommy Rhodes says, what about Kenny Stills? Got to be honest with you, this offense is really complicated.
It is.
I don't see them acquiring anybody that hasn't been here for a while. It's the read routes that they ask the receivers to run. John Brown said this was the most complicated offense he's ever been in. He said that before. We were just going to keep quoting it because I think it's a fair watermark to remember.
Yes.
I just don't see it in the fabric of this team to go get somebody and expect them to be effective. I understand Kenny Stills is just a go route guy. He's very effective in that role, but you got Gabe Davis at this point.
Did
I think
Stills
you're
ever go to
probably fine
New
to
England?
hit your. No.
Who was a wide receiver that was a burner that went to New England and he fizzled out? I just remember a guy like a Lance Moore.
You could be telling me Joey Galloway.
No. What I'm trying to say, my point is this: there's a guy like a Lance Moore, like a Kenny Stills, like a 2 or a 3 that's a burner, a Darius Hayward Bay. You know what I mean?
Are you thinking Cooks?
No, not Cook. I'm just talking about a guy as an example we could use that went into an EP system that was a burner that failed at the EP system because it's not just about being a burner. It's about read routes. And you talk about John Brown, and the thing that I always add to your quote, Paul, is this. John Brown played for Bruce Arians, and he said this offense is tougher to learn.
Right.
So that's always the thing I like to. Gordon was a burner, fizzled out. Cooks didn't stay there long. Hogan wasn't really a burner.
Right.
Mario's clear. What?
You're thinking Cooks.
I don't think it was Cooks. I think it was a lesser named guy than Cooks.
Doesn't matter.
I'm going to look this up.
I look forward to that.
I'm going to. Oh God. I swear.
I look forward to that. All right, Mark. We're at the watermark, man. We gotta get running.
Okay. Since the Buffalo Bills did win, it is a roast session.
All right.
Roast session. Yeah, but Randy Hardman. Randy Moss is like the best wide receiver I ever lived. So it's kind of hard to put him in that category. He is a burner, but he was still one of the smartest wide receivers. Cordell Patterson, probably. Antonio Brown, probably. So it's the roast session. Jarius Byrd. Oh my God, that's amazing. And when the Buffalo Bills win, we have our post game. You guys have the 2-minute warning in order to roast Paul and myself or anybody else you want. So, and we have to sit here and read it off and take it basically. So,
Clifford Franklin. Randy, you got me with a Clifford Franklin.
Sanu could have been Sanu. I don't know.
You do have an unhealthy love affair with Mohamed Sanu.
I do not anymore. Yeah. Buffalo Mafia News. Mario spends money for local charities on gas money in Tim Hortons. That is not true.
No. Oh my God, no. Yeah. So January, third week in January, I think we're doing the Punt Foundation thing.
Yes.
So,
yes. Second week of January, we were going to be doing the presentation to the Punt Foundation.
Second or third week. Yeah.
We just hit a milestone of subscribers thanks to the nation. We hit 3,000, and I was hoping that because we're getting pretty close, I was hoping that number could be for the Punt Foundation as well. So we're going to try to get to 3K for the donations, but we need your help to do that. So we really appreciate it. All the super chats, all the membership is going to be going toward the Punt Foundation, which means it stands for Persevere, Understanding, Need, and Triumph. So Brian Moorman's Foundation, charity for children with pediatric cancer. So I cannot. What?
Couple burns. Buffalo Mafia News. Paul steals foul balls from kids' baseball games. Conrad says Mario spends all the donations on Dan Mitchell's OnlyFans page.
There's so much to unpack in that comment. There's so much.
There's a lot there. Davis says Paul looks like a Wii character in human form with with an adult film addiction.
Oh my God. Wow, Davis. Ocho Cinco didn't know. That is wow. That is brutal.
Oh, Matthias says for every consecutive win, I will double the donation. All right. Mario looks like John Hamm.
I've heard that before. I actually
really
heard that before. Yeah, I heard it on the Cold Front Report, which I'm going to be on later tonight, guys. So make sure you turn into the Cold Front Report. So you can hear all the stuff I said tonight. No, I'm
just different.
No. I'm going to try to rile up Clayton. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to rile him up.
That won't take much.
I appreciate that, Davis, man. That's awesome. So as we go into
Mario
another
looks
week,
like John Farrell.
I don't even know who that is.
Too bad we're going 9-7, Mario.
Yep. Yes. That well never runs dry, does it?
No, it doesn't.
What time? You'd have to check Twitter for Cold Front Report. I'm not really sure about the time that we're going to go. It's got to be relatively soon. It's 7:00 here on the East Coast. So, we're going to have some episodes. By the way, we may try to do an episode for the Buffalo Media / YouTube creators.
We got so much heat for that.
We did.
We got so much heat on Twitter.
Is the human version of Homer Simpson? No, I've actually gotten Aaron Rodgers before. I have gotten Aaron Rodgers before. Paul will disagree because of my throwing motion, but also to let you guys know, if you want to become a Hall of Famer of the membership, because we have the certain levels of the membership for the #Heroes, the fancy snazzy hat that Paul has on could be yours. So if you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're going to send all the Hall of Famers a hat.
Yep, we definitely are going to do that. To flag a guy for spinning a football. I would not flag a guy for spinning a football. Although I am more of the Barry Sanders mold, where if I ever scored a touchdown, I would just hand it to the ref. That's how I do it.
That was a Thurman thing, too.
That was a
Thurman
Thurman thing.
Yeah.
Mario goes to the Bills' houses Halloween to talk to the players. Oh my God. I'm done. AJ Klein for MVP is the roast of the night. Thank you very much, Steve Rose. But actually, yeah, for Hashtag Nation, Hashtag Sports, for the Punt Foundation, for Paul and myself, we cannot thank you enough for coming to the post game. We will see you later this week. And as always, go Bills, guys.